Shabbat Shalom. I just want to welcome everyone to the Sabbath Day conference call. This is Barbara, and I'm serving as your host today, and Brother Pete is here as your co-host.
Yes, welcome aboard. This is Pete.
Well, we want to invite everyone to go to our website, lunarsabbathday.com, for a lot more information about the Sabbath and the manna and the calendar. So today, this is our title, The Manna and the Sabbath. The fact of the manna being given on 6 days and not on the 7th day is proof of the Bible Sabbath. And that is one of the things we always show people when we're showing them the Sabbath. But did you know that the manna also shows which days are the Sabbath on Yah's calendar?
Exodus 16, 1 through 4. And they departed from Elim, and all the congregation of the children of Israel came to the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai. And on the 15th day, in the 2nd month, after their departure from the land of Egypt, all the congregation of the children of Israel murmured against Moses and Aaron. And the children of Israel said to them, "What, that we had died smitten by Yahweh in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the flesh pots and ate bread to satiety, and they have brought us out into this wilderness to slay all this congregation with hunger. And Yahweh said to Moshe, Behold, I will rain bread upon you out of heaven, and the people shall go forth, and they shall gather their daily portion for the day, that I may try them whether they will walk in my law or not."
So these verses that Brother Pete read bring out two main points. One, the Israelites murmured against Moses and Aaron on the 15th day of the 2nd month after leaving Egypt. And here's a calendar over here showing the 15th day of the 2nd month on Yah's calendar. 2, Jehovah was going to test the Israelites to see if they would walk in his law or not. And it's very interesting that Moses or Moshe should mention the exact day that the Israelites murmured against him and Aaron in the wilderness. Nowhere else in the narrative that the Israelites' wanderings from Egypt to the Promised Land is an exact date mentioned. This clearly indicates that this date was important to Jehovah and that he wanted the Israelites to remember it. Also, on this date, he was going to teach the Israelites something very important, to test them and see if they would obey him or not. What was this important lesson?
So let's continue with Exodus 16. "And it shall be on the 6th day that they shall prepare what they bring in, and it shall be twice as much as they gather daily. Then Moshe and Aaron said to all the children of Israel, At evening you shall know what Yahweh has brought you out of the land of Egypt. And in the morning you shall see the glory of Yahweh, for he hears your murmuring against Yahweh. But what are we that you murmur against us? Now it came to pass, as Aaron spoke to the whole congregation of the children of Israel, that they looked toward the wilderness, and behold, the glory of Yahweh appeared in the cloud. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, I have heard the murmurings of the children of Israel. Speak to them, saying, At twilight you shall eat meat, and in the morning you shall be filled with bread. And you shall know that I am Yahweh your Elohim. So it was that quail came up at evening and covered the camp.
And here's a little picture of the 15th, and that happened to be a Sabbath day, and the quail came in the night, and the manna in the morning, and we're going to discuss that further. So this day, the 15th of the 2nd month, was so important to Jehovah that he appeared in a cloud before the Israelites and then caused thousands and maybe millions of quail to be blown into the Israelites' camp at twilight. So why was this day so important to Jehovah? Yah was speaking to them, the children of Israel, on a Sabbath through Moses. So Yah spoke to his people on the Sabbath. He stated it was the 15th, Moses did, of the second month.
Now let's continue with the narrative in Exodus. This is now verse 16, verses 13 through 30. And in the morning the dew lay all around the camp, and when the layer of dew lifted, there was on the surface of the wilderness was a small round substance as fine as frost on the ground. And so when the children of Israel saw it, they said to one another, "What is it?" For they did not know what it was. Moshe said to them, "This is bread which Yahweh has given you to eat." And so they gathered it every morning, and every man according to his need. And when the sun became hot, it melted. So it was on the sixth day that they gathered twice as much bread, 2 omers for each one. And all the rulers of the congregation came and told Moses. Then he said to them, "This is what Yahweh has said. Tomorrow is the Sabbath rest, a holy Sabbath to Yahweh. Bake what you will today, and boil what you will boil, and lay up for yourselves all that remains to be kept until morning." And so they laid it up until morning, as Moshe had commanded, and it did not stink, nor were there any worms in it. Then Moshe said, "Eat that today, for tomorrow is a Sabbath to Yahweh. Today you will not find it in the field. 6 days you shall gather it, but on the 7th day, which is a Sabbath, there shall be none." Now it happened that some of the people went out on the 7th day to gather, but they found none. And Yahweh said to Moses, "Moshe, how long do you refuse to keep my commandments and my laws? See, for Yahweh has given you the Sabbath. Therefore he gives you on the 6th day bread for 2 days. Let every man remain in his place. Let no man go out of his place on the 7th day." And so the people rested on the 7th day.
Well, starting on the 16th day of the month, Jehovah provided food for the Israelites. Then, on the 7th day, after the 15th, he did not provide any manna, thereby showing that this day, the 22nd of the month, was a Sabbath. And then, obviously, if the 15th was 7 days before the 22nd, then the 15th was also a Sabbath day. So here is a graph for you to look at. The manna started on the 16th in the morning. That was the first day. There were 6 working days there. The 6th day, there was a double amount, and the 22nd was a Sabbath, because remember, the date was announced as the 15th day of the second month. And so if the 22nd is a Sabbath, the 15th is. And here's another way to look at it. The first day, they had their single portion on the 16th, and it goes all the way through to the 21st, and the double portion, and then the Sabbath, no manna on the 22nd.
We can see that Yahweh was setting up his weekly Sabbath cycle for the Israelites. If the 15th and the 22nd were Sabbath days, then the 8th and the 29th of the month were also Sabbaths. So here we see a pattern: 8th, 15th, 22nd, and 29th. What significance do these dates have? Just this: they happen to correspond to the phases of the moon. Yahweh was showing the Israelites that his Sabbath day were to fall on the days corresponding to the moon's phases, thus showing that the weekly Sabbaths were to be kept by the same calendar or reckoning used to determine the annual Sabbaths or feast days.
And Brother Pete, here's an example of the calendar of the moon phases.
Right there we see the 15th showing that full moon, And then rolling right into the 22nd, where we see that last half moon.
Okay, here we go. Well, now we're going to go into another part of the manna story, Joshua and the Promised Land. The first Passover in the Promised Land also proves the Sabbaths are on the 8th, 15th, 22nd, and 29th.
What a coincidence.
Yeah, that's right. And it's really great to have a double confirmation here. So Joshua 5:10 through 12 is what we'll be discussing. And the children of Israel kept the Passover on the 14th day of the month at evening to the westward of Jericho on the opposite side of the Jordan in the plain. So here's the River Jordan, and here they are, opposite of the Jericho. And here is a biblical calendar also showing Passover as the 14th day of the first month. That makes the 15th the Sabbath, the beginning of unleavened bread, and the 22nd. So we're going to go forward.
Joshua 5:10 through 12 continued, and they ate of the grain of the earth, unleavened and new corn. In this day the manna failed. After they had eaten of the corn of the land, that means the crop of the land, and the children of Israel no longer had manna, and they took the fruits of the land of the Phoenicians in that year.
Yeah, that's a little bit different interpretation from the Septuagint, which is the most ancient Hebrew writing of scriptures, from what I understand. And then here's another picture over here. 14th was the Passover, 15th, the unleavened bread, and 16th, the manna ceased.
Leviticus 23, 10 through 11, and verse 14. When thou shalt enter the land which I give you, and reap the harvest of it, then you shall bring the sheaf, the first fruits of your harvest, to the priest, and he shall lift up the sheaf before Yahweh to be accepted for you. On the morrow of the first day of unleavened bread, the priest shall lift it up, and ye shall not eat bread, nor the new parched corn, until the same day, until ye offer the sacrifices to your Elohim. It is a perpetual statute throughout your generations in all your dwellings.
Well, in Leviticus, okay, go ahead. Yes, Brother Pete.
In Leviticus 23:10, it states that when the Israelites came into the land, they were to wave the sheaf of the first fruits. That is the morrow after the Sabbath. Verse 15 says that they were to begin a count on the morrow after they brought the sheaf to the priest to be offered. And verse 14 says they could not eat of the new parched corn, that is the new crop, until the same day they brought the offering.
Well,
now both.
Josephus, go ahead.
Now both Josephus and Philo agree that this would always be on the 16th of the moon, the morrow after the Sabbath on the 15th, when the priest would wave the sheaf. And they lived during the time the priesthood was still active. This is indubitably means the Sabbath will always be on the 15th every year. And the only way this can happen is to count the Sabbaths by the moon. It also proves that the Sabbath in the first month or moon each year will be on the 15th without fail, which is absolutely impossible to happen on the Roman calendar system or count. Joshua 5:11 through 12. And they did eat of the old corn of the land on the morrow after the Passover, the 15th, unleavened cakes and parched corn in the selfsame day. And the manna ceased on the morrow after they had eaten of the old corn of the land. And that's the 16th. Neither had the children of Israel manna any more, But they did eat of the fruit of the land of Canaan that year. Now in Joshua 5:11, we saw that when the Israelites came into the land, they did exactly what Yahweh told them, and they kept the Passover on the 14th that evening. Verse 11 states that they ate parched, that is, new corn, etc., on the morrow after the Passover, which would be the 15th. This proves once again that the 15th was the Sabbath and the 16th was the morrow after, as the two historians we read earlier who watched the priest doing this confirm.
And the manna ceased. Well, the manna ceased on the same day, the 16th, after 40 years, because it had begun 40 years earlier on the 16th, as we just saw in the charts earlier when Israel came into the wilderness. It started on the 16th, 40 years earlier, and it ceased on the 16th, 40 years later.
Some misguided individuals try to say that the 14th was the Sabbath in Joshua 5. But if that were so, then counting backwards, we would come to the 7th of the moon that would also be a Sabbath. However, in Joshua 1:11, Joshua instructs the officers to pass through the camp and command the people to prepare food, because in 3 days they would pass over the Jordan River. The command, go through the camp and charge the people thus, get provisions ready, for in 3 days' time you are to cross the Jordan in order to enter and possess the land which Yahweh your Elohim is giving you as a possession.
So now this had to be the 7th day of the moon over here. You can see it. Because they passed over the Jordan on the 10th day. And here's the scripture, Joshua 4:19. The people came up from the Jordan on the 10th day of the first month and encamped at Gilgal on the east border of Jericho. So they would not command the people to prepare food on the Sabbath, which proves the 7th day was not the Sabbath, and therefore the 14th isn't either. The 8th day was the Sabbath, and then the 15th. You can easily mathematically prove the 14th was not a Sabbath by counting 1 to 7 from the pinpointed Sabbath we discussed in the 16th chapter of Exodus. And you will find that the 14th was not the Sabbath at the end of 40 years. So the 7th is a preparation day, and the 8th is a Sabbath. And here it is on Yah's calendar showing the moon phases. The 7th is a preparation day before the quarter phase, the first Sabbath. The 10th is just a regular work day. And this is just another way of looking at it. They got the provisions ready on the 7th. The 8th was a rest Sabbath day. And they passed over the Jordan on the 10th. And the 15th was the first day of unleavened bread and a Sabbath. And the manna ceases after 40 years on the 16th, the very day it began 40 years earlier. Only Jehovah could do something like that.
Amen. Yahweh's calendar. In these examples of the manna, the Sabbaths always fell on the 8th, 15th, 22nd, and 29th days of the month of Yahweh's calendar. Every place in the Bible where the Sabbaths and new moons are indicated, the second day of the moon or month is always the first work day, and the 8th, 15th, 22nd, and 29th days of the month are Sabbaths without exception.
So I ask you, why would Jehovah complicate the Israelites' lives by giving them or having them keep 2 calendars or reckonings, one for a weekly Sabbath and one for annual holy days? Well, that makes no sense to me whatsoever. Jehovah set up one calendar for all his days, not 2. And we will be keeping that calendar. Jehovah says in the new heaven and the new earth, we will be keeping it because the prophet Isaiah says, and it shall happen that from one new moon to another and from one Sabbath to another shall all flesh come to worship before me, says Jehovah. And that's Isaiah 66:23. So to access more information about the Sabbath and the dates of the Sabbath, the dates of the feast days that he has given us, and new moons, please go to our website, lunarsabbathday.com. So thank you for being here today, and we'll be back next time, Yah willing.
Shalom.